Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about a new lecture, that is electrolyte and water balance. Myself, Dr. Hasid Lal. We are going to learn this topic under following objectives. At the end of the session, students should be able to describe the distribution of water and electrolytes in body and their exchanges. Should be able to elaborate the mechanism of normal water and electrolyte balance in health. Should be able to explain regulatory mechanisms which maintains water and electrolyte balance. And last but not least, discuss the abnormalities of water and electrolyte metabolism. So these are the various objectives under which we are going to study this topic. So first of all, you must know about total body water distribution. As you all are aware that total body water is divided into mainly two compartments, intracellular and extracellular. Total body water constitutes 60 to 70% of your body weight in 70 kg adult person. Out of that, 50% goes to intracellular fluid and 20% is contributed by extracellular fluid. Now again, extracellular is further divided into interstitial fluid. It is outside only, but it is not in the vascular compartment, it is in the interstitium. So interstitial fluid, which contributes about 15% of ECF, whereas intravascular fluid, that is your plasma, contributes 5% of water distribution in extracellular space. So this is how your total body water is distributed. Majority of total body water is inside the cell as intracellular fluid. Now distribution of this body water depends on solute content of each compartment. So if you see, intracellular solute compartment is highest, followed by interstitial and followed by intravascular, that is plasma. Now I am giving a compare and contrast of body water intake and output. So if you see intake per day, the major determinant of body water intake is your thirst and your metabolism. That determines your intake of food. Now you all know that drinking water intake is regulated by osmolality of plasma, which stimulates the thirst center in the brain and compels the person to take water when it is stimulated. On the other hand, if you see, output is mainly governed by kidney, that is via urine formation, and the other less important ones are excretion via skin, respiratory mechanism, and via feces. So if you see, all in all, both of them balance each other, intake versus output. Thirst center stimulated by osmolality of blood, we have already discussed. Now we will have a look at the total body water composition and electrolyte balance in the different compartments. How the electrolytes are distributed in your various compartments along with water. So we have three compartments: intravascular, that is plasma, interstitial, and the third one is intracellular. Now it is very evident from the figure that plasma and interstitial fluid almost coincide with each other, and in that the cations, the major determinant is sodium in both of them. There is a slight difference, but major determinant in cation is sodium followed by potassium, and red one is magnesium. Okay. Whereas if you see the anion, the major determinant or solute is chloride in both of them. There is a marginal difference between interstitial fluid, there is marginal rise in the interstitial fluid chloride levels, followed by bicarbonate, and the black one is protein. Now, if you compare these two electrolyte distribution in these two compartments, you can see it is almost similar, barring few changes in the concentration. But when you compare plasma and interstitial fluid electrolyte balance with the intracellular fluid, you see a vast difference. That is, the major cation or the determinant of the solute for intracellular fluid is potassium, you can see, against sodium, which was the major determinant in plasma and interstitial fluid, followed by, after potassium, it is the magnesium, and sodium is the last. Whereas in anions, the major determinant anion or solute is phosphorus, in contrast to chloride in plasma and interstitial fluid. Followed by phosphorus, we have protein, bicarb, and chloride. You can see chloride is the least in concentration in intracellular compared to plasma and interstitial fluid. So this is the compare and contrast between extracellular and intracellular fluid, the distribution of electrolytes. Now, one of the important aspects of extracellular fluid we have to learn is osmolality. Now, when the term osmolality strikes, immediately what comes to our mind? What is osmosis? Osmosis you have all learned in your school days, that it is the movement of solvent across the semi-permeable membrane when there is a difference in the osmotic pressure of two compartments which are separated by the semi-permeable membrane. So that is your osmosis. And usually what happens in osmosis, the solutes which can migrate across the membrane will try to develop equilibrium. So osmotic pressure is mainly due to the solutes which cannot migrate across the membrane to establish equilibrium. Now that contributes to the osmotic pressure. And what does it govern? Osmotic pressure governs the movement of water across the membrane separating the two compartments. In our body, it will be between the outside of cell and inside of the cell. Okay. And I told you earlier that osmotic gradient is produced by those solutes which are non-diffusible across the membrane. In our body, cellular membrane, we talk the major determinant is protein, which cannot diffuse across the membrane freely, whereas water and majority of ions can diffuse across the membrane freely. So osmotic gradient is determined by non-diffusible colloids, mainly proteins. So hence the term colloidal osmotic pressure, that is determined by the plasma albumin. Now you should know about the difference between osmolarity and osmolality. Both of the terms are used interchangeably, but technically they are different terms. What is osmolarity? It is the osmotic pressure exerted by moles of solute per liter of solvent. Remember, it is per liter of solvent. Whereas osmolality is nothing but osmotic pressure exerted by moles of solute per kilogram of solvent. So there is a difference between osmolality and osmolarity. Osmolarity being osmotic pressure per kg, osmolarity is per liter of solvent. Now, why we are discussing about the osmolality? Because major solute and hence the determinant of osmolarity inside our body in the plasma is sodium. Because you know, intravascular in plasma, major component solute present is sodium. So it is the determinant of osmolarity will depend upon the solute which has the highest concentration, okay, which is sodium in plasma. So now you can see here sodium usually present as NaCl, so Na plus Cl minus. So sodium with anions contributes to your 270 milliosmol per kg, which almost 92% of your plasma osmolarity, and the remaining 22%, remaining 22 units or 8% is governed by potassium, calcium, magnesium ions and urea, glucose and proteins. Now out of all these, all of these solutes can diffuse across the membrane except proteins, okay. So in addition to sodium, we have potassium, calcium, magnesium, the cations, and urea, glucose, as well as protein anion that contributes to your total plasma osmolarity, which must be known. Now, why you should? What is the clinical relevance of osmolarity of plasma as well as urine? These two are used in assessment of our electrolyte and acid base disorder that we'll learn in detail subsequently. How this osmolarity helps to differentiate various causes of dyselectrolytemia and acid base disorder. So osmolarity is given by milliosmol per kg. It is calculated by formula that is 1.86. If you have your serum sodium levels, glucose levels and urea nitrogen levels, you can calculate the osmolarity of that particular person of the plasma. That is given by the formula. Osmolarity in terms of milliosmol per kg is equal to 1.86 into concentration of sodium in millimole plus glucose milligram per deciliter divided by 18, that is your glucose millimole per liter, plus urea nitrogen in mg per dl divided by 2.8, that is your urea nitrogen millimole per liter, and plus 9. Now what does 9 signify here? We have considered sodium, glucose and urea for calculation of osmolarity of the plasma. These 9 represent osmolarity contributed by rest of the solutes, that is your calcium, calcium, other anions, magnesium, protein, and hence so forth. So 9 takes into account all the solute other than which has been mentioned here. Now what does this 1.86 signify? 86 is signifying sodium chloride. Both solute are present, so sodium and chloride. This 1.86 takes into account chloride. Okay, so this is how we derive the calculated value of plasma osmolarity. What is the normal range? Normal range of plasma osmolarity is 275 to 300 milliosmol per kg. Again, remember 275 to 300 milliosmol per kg. This is for plasma. And urinary osmolarity is very fluctuant. It varies from 500 to 1200 milliosmol per kg because there is a different state of water retention and water excretion during the different physiological conditions. So the range is wide at 500 to 1200 milliosmol per kg of is urine osmolarity. Now osmolarity is measured directly by instrument that is known as osmometer. We have two methods for measuring osmolarity: direct measurement osmolarity, that is freezing point depression, that is most commonly used method. Now what is osmolar gap? Osmolar gap is nothing but it is the difference between the calculated and measured osmolarity. Now what is the importance of this osmolar gap? Because sometimes the osmolarity may be contributed by those solutes which we have not taken into account in calculated formula. That can be ethanol, mannitol, amino acid, which can rise and give rise to osmolar gap. So the abnormal amount of these solutes can lead to increased osmolar gap. And usually calculated and measured osmolarity are always nearby, but in absence of these abnormalities in the solutes, when there is a difference between the calculated and measured osmolarity, then doubt should be there in the measured constituent, that is most common affected component is sodium. There might be a presence of pseudo hyponatremia, that is hyponatremia due to presence of excessive lipid or protein in your plasma, so that when you estimate your serum sodium levels, it shows low sodium levels compared to the actual level due to presence of hyperlipidemia and hyperproteinemia. So I think with this we will end today's lecture on total body water distribution. What we learned today is how total body water is distributed in the different compartments and how your electrolytes also distributed in relation to different body compartments. We learned about the osmolarity of plasma, what is osmosis, what is osmotic pressure, which are the determinants of osmotic pressure, important in context to plasma. We learned how the osmolarity of plasma is calculated based on few parameters, and we learned clinical importance of measuring urinary and plasma osmolarity and calculating osmolar gap. So with this I will end today's lecture. Thank you everyone.